Well, I want to say hello to all the people who are here today to join us in this live event. We're really excited that we are continuing to do these and to offer this as a possibility, particularly as Reverend John mentioned, for people who perhaps aren't near a temple and need to find a place for them to practice within their home. So hopefully today you'll learn some of the elements that are required for creating a sacred space for yourself. And hopefully you'll get really excited. I was very excited about preparing for today, and I hope that gets translated into some enthusiasm for all of you as well. So I'm going to share my screen again because there's a few things that I wanted to highlight in this talk. So let's see, we'll do this. And I'm going to. So this is called Setting Up Your Sacred Space. And when we talk about a sacred space in terms of Shin Buddhism, we are talking about something called an obutsudan. So the question then asked, what is an obutsudan? And it means home altar. And there, in the Shin Buddhist tradition, we have some specific aspects that create or are kind of necessary for your own home altar. And so I'm going to tell you kind of what are the requirements, and then at some point we will talk about how you can deviate or enhance or be creative within the confines of some of those requirements. So the question is, why have a home altar? Why have an obutsudan? Why have a place in your home that is a place for your Buddhist practice? So first of all, it's a physical manifestation of your practice. It becomes a place that you can identify as this is where I do Buddhism. It would be a place where you can do things like offer incense or go and do what we call gasho, where you go and say Namo Amida Butsu. It's a place where you could also chant and a place where you can meditate. And hopefully, ultimately, this will become a refuge, a place where that you will feel safe and at peace. And so it would be nice to have a place in your home where that would be possible. So there are 4 essential elements for an obutsudan. And if you have these 4 elements, then you're good to go. So the first is an Amida image or a myogo. And I'll explain what what those 2 things are in just a moment. Another item that's necessary is an incense burner. And I'll talk about there are kind of a couple types that we need to consider. We need to have candles or a candle and flowers. So going back to this idea of the Amida image or myogo, let's see. I wanted to show you these. So that is an Amida image on the left, and the myogo is Namo Amida Butsu, and that's what we say. That's part of our practice in our Shin Buddhist tradition. We say Namo Amida Butsu, and it was the thing that Shinran, our founder, emphasized, is that we say Namo Amida Butsu. In our Shin Buddhist practice, Amida Buddha, which the image is on the left, and Namo Amida Butsu are equated. They are one and the same. And so we call the myogo the name, and it means Amida Buddha, and they're equivalent. Okay. So besides those 4 elements, there's some optional obutsudan elements that I'll talk to you about, and I'm going to show you all of these things in just a moment. So there's the nenju, which is the beads that it's like a Buddhist rosary. There's something called a bell and striker, which basically is like a gong. There's something like a incense stick holder, and you can make offerings of food or rice. In Japan, it's traditional to give rice offerings because it's such an important part of the culture. But any kind of offering, well, not any kind of offering, but offerings, other offerings could also be made. You might also want to have a chanting book, or you may want to have a cushion or comfortable chair for your space. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. That was a signal to myself. And I'm going to show you some examples that I have assembled here of my obutsudans. I have actually several here. And I'll go through the various elements that I just mentioned. So this is my largest obutsudan. It was an obutsudan that I was able to get from Gardena Buddhist Church. They had. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, this is I received this from Gardena Buddhist Church, and I'm going to open it up and show you exactly what I. So as you can see in Dan, we have this is a rather traditional obutsudan. We have Amida Buddha in the middle. On the right, you have Shinran Shonin, and on the left, this is an image of Benyo Shonin, which is also really important Gomonshu or teacher from the past. And here are the other four elements. Flowers, usually on the left, candle, and we have an incense burner that goes in the middle. So some of the other things I mentioned, this is a bell. That's a really beautiful tone. And so I wanted to show you that these are some of the elements and the various ways that you can arrange them. So I had a lot of fun today doing my flower arranging. I have several flower vases, and these two are fairly traditional. These are made from, I think, brass or bronze, but they're metal, dark metal. But I also have vases that I made from, this is just a little cup that I got at Daiso with like $1.75. Beautiful little glass vase, or actually it's a cup. I found this vase at Goodwill, and I thought it was very pretty. So I used that. And this is just a little spice jar, and I just use this as a vase. So there are those kinds of things. Here is a traditional candle holder. Again, it's made out of brass or bronze. Not exactly sure what the difference is, but it's a metal candle holder. But you can also do, let's see, something like this. I think I got this at Marshall's, or it was a set of 3 candles, and it just fits in a little tea light, and you can do whatever you want. I mean, there's lots of candles available everywhere, so you could use whatever you'd like as a candle. These candles come with there's a spike on the top, and then there's a hole that will fit the candle on, but it's not necessary for you to do that. And then the incense burner, I wanted to show you, there are 2 different kinds. This one is a metal, again, brass, I think, or bronze of some kind. And this one is ceramic, and it has the Buddhist crest on it with the hanging wisteria blossoms. So I'm not sure why they have this rule, but for the green ceramic burner, you only put in stick incense. Or, well, you only put in incense that you put into it, but you cannot put what we call the powdered incense. We have these powdered granules that we will do for offerings at the temple. And the powdered granule is always used in a metal incense burner. So when you go to a temple or in your house, if you wanted to use the granular powder, you need to use a metal container. For this one, you just light the charcoal or light the incense stick and place it in there, but you don't put any powder in it. And then I wanted to show you different kinds of incense. There's various kinds of charcoal. Oh, this one's not open. I think the easiest thing for most people to find is the incense sticks. But you can also find this kind of these charcoal bricks like this, and you can break them in half. And usually incense, you can find them just about anywhere, the incense sticks, and they usually come in these bundles like this. There's a lot of sticks in here, but they're like that. One thing you should know too, when you light incense, you're not supposed to blow on it with your breath. In order to get it going or to sort of increase the heat on it, you just wave it in the air. I guess the idea is that your breath isn't clean enough that you shouldn't be using your breath on the incense. So that's not super important, but I thought I should mention that. So these are the four elements that I mentioned, and some of the other things that you might be interested in having with your obutsudan are things like fruit offerings. These are little holders for fruit. And one of the things that's often done is rice offering. Again, in Japan, because rice is such an important part of the culture, they do rice offerings. This is called an obukpan. And I did it in two styles. One, it's just mounded. And this one I tried to shape into kind of a lotus bud shape, which is another shape that is often used. So it's kind of a teardrop shape. It's got a little bit of a point on the top of it. One of the things you may be interested in would be incense stick holder. They've got those. You might want a chanting book if you like chanting, which is something that I like to do when I go to my obutsudan. What I try to do is I'll light the incense, light the candle, and then I will do either a sitting meditation or chanting practice. And so that's something that really works well, having the obutsudan. And then another thing is you could sit on the floor, in which case you might want to have something like this, a cushion. This is a yoga cushion that I got from I think it was a a white elephant game or something. But if you like sitting on the floor, but sitting in a chair is fine too. So I wanted to show you just a couple other types of obutsudans, if I have so many. This is an obutsudan that I got in Japan. And this is a very plain obutsudan compared to this. This one's much more traditional, very ornate. And it has, lots of gold leaf. I bought a uchishiki cloth just as a decoration, and I put that there. This one is very, very plain. The beauty comes from the wood. It is beautifully finished and made. And all that I have in there is a myogo. And this I purchased in Japan. Just a little plain scroll. And I put a little hook up there and I just hang it in there. Now I want to show you a couple more obutsudans. They get smaller in size. This is the one that I got. I used to say it was from my grandfather, but it turns out from my sister said that it was actually our mother who purchased this one. And she got this one in Japan. So this is one that I use when I go out to do services, say at a cemetery or at someone's home or in the hospital. It's very portable and very lovely. So again, you see that there's a myogo on the inside. And this one is very special to me. And the last obutsudan I want to show you is this one. This was made for well, actually, we made these in for the high school class. It's an Altoid box, and it was put together by our Buddhist Women's Association. They made all the parts, and then our students assembled them. I can get it open. So this is what this looks like, the Altoid box of Butsudan. The Buddhist women's group did all the parts. They have this beautiful background with the flowers. They made these little images and reduced them to the correct size. The little flower holder is just a bead that they spray painted black, and there's a little flower in there. The candle holder is actually a push pin. And so there's a block of wood in the bottom. And then they got a little silver or gold bead for an incense burner. And then they also have that hanging cloth. That's the uchishiki cloth. And then on the left, you see a card with the Jusege, which is one of the chants that we do very often. So this is the idea of doing this with the high school group was that this is a very portable little obutsudan that they could take with them to college, very easy thing to do. And they've got the Jusei, for chanting if they want. So then I want to show you my last obutsudan. I have this obutsudan somewhere in my house. I just moved a month ago, and there are things that I can't find. So I have this obutsudan. It was created by one of our temple members. He actually made many, many of these because they were something that people wanted. So he created this wood frame, and it closes nicely. And the card that's in there is something that's really easily purchased. So you see the 4 elements, the flower, the candle, the myogo, the incense burner, and then off to the side is the bell. Next, I wanted to show you, this is my mother's obutsudan. It's about another 6 inches taller than the one that I have here. It's quite large, but this was purchased in Kyoto, Japan, and it's a very pretty obutsudan. So the question is, where do you go to get an obutsudan? And so there's five options. I think you're probably one of your better bets. These are kind of in well, they're in no particular order, but you can go to a local Shin Buddhist temple. You could go to a retail seller, and there aren't very many of them in the United States, but I do have the name of one. You can check online, and you can go to Japan. And lastly, you can create your own. So we're going to kind of go through all of these options. Okay, so local temple. So here's an example of an obutsudan that was obtained from a temple. And this is a friend of mine, John Mullins, who was connected with the San Fernando Valley Honganji Buddhist Temple. And he said, I received the obutsudan from San Fernando Valley Honganji Buddhist Temple. As you may know, families often bring their relatives' obutsudans to the temple when they pass away. It was empty when I received it, and I don't know exactly who owned it before me, but Reverend Patty Usuki helped me populate it with spare parts that she had at the temple. I also treated it to restore the lacquer finish. It was very meaningful to bring the obutsudan into my home. It sits in my office directly across from my desk, where I basically can look at it at all times, including right now. So you can see he's got all the elements. It's got the standing Amida image. It's got the flowers, candle holder, but no candle. He has a rice offering, 2 fruit offerings, the incense burner, and a bell. And it's just a very beautiful example. So going to a temple or contacting a temple to see if they have any obutsudans. If you don't live near one, or if you do live near one, contact the temple. And the way to find a temple is to go to the Buddhist Churches of America.org site, the BCA, and look where it says temple locator. I've circled it, and you can either just go down the list or contact the temple that's closest to you to see if anybody has turned one of these obutsudans in, and that you might be able to get it. I mean, that is probably a pretty good option for some people. And you might get lucky, like I did. So another place that you might be able to check is Honganji Place, which is associated with Nishi Honganji in Los Angeles. It's the Betsuin, and it's their store. They don't have obutsudans, but you can get things like nenjus or maybe some other items, and you can check with them. The only Shin Buddhist retailer that I am aware of in California, maybe the United States, is Kai Undo, and it's run by a man named Rick Iriyama. This is his address, and I think we're going to have all of these these things in the chat for you if you would like to access them. This website sometimes doesn't work. So the way I have gotten to his website is to do like a Google search of Kai Undo, and sometimes they'll give you various links, and I just kind of hit or miss, try the links and see if you can get to his website. And he has some limited items, and he doesn't have prices, so you'd probably have to call him to see what he has available. But that is the only Shin Buddhist vendor that I know of locally or in the United States. So the other two options would be check online. And there are things that can be found on Google, on Safari. If you go to Amazon, I looked and saw quite a few things on Etsy that you might be able to find possibly. And then if you know anybody that's going to Kyoto, Japan, I would highly suggest you place an order with that friend or person who might be able to help you. You could maybe get an idea of just what might be possible. And then I found this on Amazon, and apparently this is a store in Hokkaido, northern Japan, called Matsuyama Shinto Buddhist Store. And it's a mini Buddhist altar and $525, which is not inexpensive, but I think all these parts come with it. I don't know, I can't recommend, any or know anything about this, but it just lets you know that there are things that are possible to find. So let's see. And then the last is to create your own. And what you need to do is find a place in your home and assemble items and use it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit or just show you some examples of some DIY obusudans. They are not strictly Shin Buddhist because this is a possible item that you could use to make your own obusudan. And actually, Honganji Place does offer this for sale, and it is $40. And I don't know how many they have available, but I just thought this is a really beautiful kind of holographic glass image of Amida Buddha that you could create a lovely obutsudan for yourself. Now I'm going to give you some examples of, the other thing too is you could find images like these online. You can print them. Then you can frame them or decoupage them or put them on a piece of wood. Make a myogo or make a scroll of your own that could be the center of your practice sacred place. So any of these are possibilities, but you can be really creative. I got an email from one of our Everyday Buddhist members who crocheted a myogo. She did the Chinese characters Namu Amida Butsu with yarn and made this lovely myogo for herself. And she was going to use that as her obusudan and sacred space. Another Everyday Buddhist member said that she was taking calligraphy. Calligraphy is something that it takes years of practice, but she was a novice, but she had been practicing how to write Namu Amida Butsu and was making her own myogo. You could even do it in Romaji and just write out NAMO, AMIDA, BUTSU, if you wanted to just, have Namu Amida Butsu someplace in your house, maybe beautifully lettered, some way that make that special for yourself. So I'm going to show you some examples of DIY sacred spaces. This is the only one that looked kind of Shin to me because of the standing Amida. And I guess I didn't mention the fact that for our tradition, a standing Amida is necessary. If you go to a Shin Buddhist temple, typically, sometimes they'll have the myogo, Namu Amida Butsu, but more than likely they will either have an image or they'll have a statue. and it'll always be a standing Buddha. So, and I'll show you kind of what his gesture is after I stop sharing. Sorry. So here's a DIY, and this is a seated Buddha, but it has the 4 elements: the flower, the candle, the incense burner, and the Buddha image. I don't know why this is not cooperating. Okay, here's another one. Again, it has the elements, not necessarily in the order or in the placement that we recommend, but that is a nice practice space. Again. This one I like because it seemed very restful. It has the flower, the candle burner, and again, a seated Buddha. So Buddha images are not difficult to find because Buddhas are used as a decoration in a lot of places. I've seen lots of Buddhas at Home Goods and TJ Maxx. They aren't standing Buddhas, but you can find Buddhas. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention too about this incense, you see how this incense stick is standing straight up? We don't do that in Shin Buddhism. When we light incense, we always lay it down. And I don't know why we do, but we do not stand our incense straight up. So just FYI. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for now. Oops. Whoops. I'm not technologically very good. Okay. So I think that's basically what I wanted to tell you about. And if you had questions or, wanted to know more information about things, I'd be happy to mention them. I wanted to show you, this is just actually a jewelry holder that I found at Home Goods, I think. And I just use it as a Nenju holder. And if you're not familiar with Nenjus, this is what they look like. This is kind of a man's Nenju. Our tradition, we always have tassels. And I think other Buddhists have something else, like Higashi Honganji uses, they have little round balls on the bottom of their Nenjus. This is a Nenju that's more for a woman. It's more delicate and a little more graceful looking.
Hey, Sensei, we had one question. If you could clarify the standing or lying down of incense when you burn them?
Oh, clarify that, okay, when you light the incense, and you have to make sure that the incense will fit. This is what we have to do every Sunday at temple. So our incense burners come in all different sizes, and incense comes at just one size. So for something like this, we probably have to break this in half, and then we light it. And then we'll just lay it down in the burner like that.
And we always have it burning from left to right.
Yes, that's how I placed it. I placed it burning side here across that way. Don't
They
know
were
why.
also, oh, sorry. There are also some questions about the flowers. What types of flowers? Can they be artificial or should they always be, real fresh cut flowers?
Okay, it's important that they are fresh. The candle, And the flowers and the incense all represent impermanence. They represent that everything is transitory, everything moves and changes. That's a very fundamental aspect of our Buddhist tradition and teachings. So the flowers can't be flowers with thorns or anything, kind of pokey. You want kind of just soft, gentle, lovely flowers, but they will fade. And our mindfulness is to appreciate the beauty and the radiance of this moment that they are living their life completely. So doing the flowers is, I think, a really meditative and, I don't know, very thoughtful way to adorn your Butsudan. So I had a lot of fun this morning, putting together all of my little flower arrangements. Oh, and then I also wanted to mention with the food offerings, we only do things that are tasty, but we don't ever use meat, and we don't use things that like garlic or onion, things with kind of strong kinds of flavors. So typically we'll do fruit, sometimes some vegetables. For funerals, they'll use the sweetened rice cakes called manju. They're confections made with mochi rice with sweetener inside. But those are the kinds of offerings you can make. But other than that, I think any kind of food offering would be appropriate.
And then we had questions about nenjus. How many beads are there in general? And what's the difference between handheld and wrist nenjus, and how and when do you use them?
Okay. Typically, the ninju is supposed to have beads that are a fraction of 108, which means what, 54 or 27? I don't know if that necessarily is always the case. And the reason why 108 is significant is in the Buddhist teachings, they talk about the 108 kleshas, or I don't know, what do we call those, Reverend John?
Yeah,
108
yeah,
bad passions
yeah,
that
blind passions.
blind passions that we all possess. So it's supposed to keep us mindful of the fact that, we are foolish beings filled with blind passions. I don't know if in practice, all of these ninju have some fraction of 108. I know that there are some like double ninjus that will have 108, but I'm not sure that they always do. And then the wrist nanju is actually a more recent thing. When I was growing up, we never had a wrist nanju, but they are very practical because they're a way to keep a nanju on your wrist at all times. And then we use the nanju to do gassho. Gassho is when we put our hands together and say Namo Amida Butsu. It's a way for us to express gratitude, mindfulness, um, just being very thankful for the things that are going in our life. When we do incense offering, we do oshoko, which means we do an incense offering, and then we also do a gassho, and we say Namo Amida Butsu. So those are things that are part of kind of everyday practice.